Hi, the second phase of version 2.0 is almost here. This phase we are getting the mischievous yet sparkling Sparkle. Sparkle is a 5-star quantum harmony support that is focused on gaining and increasing skill points, making her a very unique character as she is our first unit to straight up increase maximum skill point. However, as some of you guys know, Hoyu has been slightly cautious of skill points with their characters. So is a skill point increase overkill and is she worth the pool? Well, here are 3 reasons why you should prefer Sparkle and 3 reasons why you should not prefer Sparkle. Before we start, I'll be giving away a supply plus / Rocket Moon / Crystal card to my subscribers at 30k subs, so make sure you subscribe to enter. If you don't know what Sparkle does, I have a guide link in the description, but to quickly summarize, Sparkle's talent increased the team's total skill points to 7, and whenever an ally consumes a skill point, damage is increased for all allies. Sparkle's skill increases the crit damage of a single ally and advances the action by 50%. For more info on that, check out my Sparkle speed tuning guide, again link in the description. And finally, her ultimate recovers 4 skill points and increases the damage buff of her talent. A very straightforward kit, but also very technical. As I've mentioned, Sparkle's release introduces a brand new mechanic to this game, and that brings me onto the 3 reasons why you should prefer Sparkle. Number 1. Sparkle is our first character that is able to straight up increase the maximum skill points you have. This mechanic is technically bending the rules of this game. As we all know, we are literally introduced to skill points of having a cap of 5 and being really important to manage. But this character just breaks that rule. And breaking the rule will bring out some really strong teams, as a main reason why some characters or teams aren't as strong or be able to work is due to the skill points limitations. But those are all gone now, and that means that we are probably gonna see some really strong teams top the meta, like the more obvious ones such as Luna and Hyper, as Sparkle fixes his main problem while also benefiting from it, and Mono Quantum with Silly or Qingque. Both of these insane carries have a skill point problem that Sparkle can fix. But what also might appear are less obvious teams like specific double DPS teams, for example Jingyuan Servo, or double DPS teams with 1 skill point free and 1 skill point heavy DPS like Argentine plus Blade. Currently, the double DPS team archetype is basically only Kafka teams or Jinyu plus Blade, but as the game progresses and releases more characters, we will have more chances to experiment with this archetype. Number 2. Talking about the game progressing, Sparkle increasing skill points means a lot of very strong but less apparent benefits. So to shine some light on them, here are 3 primary ones I want to point out. Which is first and foremost, Hoyu releasing Sparkle allows them to release more type of characters that rely on skill points, whether it be straight up using more like Lune or relying on low or high skill points, for example. Now that we have a character that increases skill points, this will open up way more opportunities for Hoyu to explore. Second, more skill points makes the battle a lot more comfortable. I'm sure all of you guys has been in a situation where you had to sacrifice a support or a DPS skill so you can sustain your team. Well, Sparkle will fix most if not all of those situations. And lastly, being a character that plays around with the fundamentals of how this game works will basically ensure that she will be most certainly future-proof, as I highly doubt they will release another characters with a similar kit anytime soon. And that is always nice to hear when contemplating on pulling for someone. Number 3. While on the topic of being future-proof, I'm very happy to see that Sparkle is not a generic support like Ron Mei. If Sparkle was a generalist support like Ron Mei, that would mean that she will be competing for the same spots as Ron Mei on teams. And unless they release another game-breaking character, chances are they're not gonna win that spot. So thankfully she has her own specialty, and that is skill point hungry teams. This is an extremely good point about her, as that means that she's gonna be able to coexist with Ron Mei on the same account without overlapping usage on the most part, since they have their own situations and teams where they are the best in slot, which is very nice to hear, especially if you already have Ron Mei. However, not all is sunshine and sparkles, as all these benefits of having extra skill points comes at a cost that is made to follow good game design. And that brings me on to the 3 reasons why you should not prefer Sparkle. Number 1. Sparkle is not the best buffer in AoE, nor is she the best in single target. To make sure that every Harmony unit has their own usages, Hoyu made sure to tune her actual buffing part down. So that means for teams that don't need many skill points, Sparkle is actually quite an underwhelming support. Ignoring her skill point increase, compared to Ron Mei, she is nothing when looking to buff in AoE. And compared to Bronya, she is still much worse compared to her, as Bronya's turn advance is still significantly better than Sparkle's action advance, not to mention her significantly better single target buffs too. And heck, even Tinyun's ult could rival Sparkle's buffs, as a lot of times, more energy means more damage and is way more valuable than any sort of buffs. I'm not here to disregard Sparkle's buff, as they are still insanely good, but when it comes to increasing damage in a vacuum, Sparkle does fall a bit behind. Number 2, the best Harmony units in this game all have some sort of defensive buffs alongside their offensive buffs, like Bronya's cleanse and defense up, or Ranmei's break efficiency and action delay. Sparkle really doesn't have any of that, and at best you can only argue on having more skill points to use on your sustain units. But ideally, you want to be using all these extra skill points on increasing damage dealt. This isn't a deal breaker, but as a person that is used to having Bronya's skill as a cleanse, since Sparkle's skill is very similar, using her skill might make you miss the cleanse that Bronya has. And furthermore, having no defensive or even pseudo-defensive buffs might mean you have to run a stronger sustain unit. And while that isn't a big problem, it slightly limits team building options. And also, not everyone has every unit, so keep that in mind. Number 3. Speaking of limiting team building options, the way Sparkle's damage increase works is based on how many skill points you use. So if you use less skill points, you will gain less damage buffs. And that is why one type of DPS that Sparkle really hates are skill point positive DPSs, namely currently of this time, Blade and Jinlu. This really sucks as both of these carries really like Bronya's turn events, so having a micro one on Sparkle's skill plus the other benefits she has really would have fitted them perfectly. Heck, even putting them together with Sparkle would have been a perfect team as Sparkle still has AoE buffs, and she can focus on Jinlu on being the main DPS with a skill and have Blade just as a sub DPS who can proc his talent often. All of this is only talking about DPSs. There are plenty, and I mean plenty of other teams that could have been really good had Sparkle not had this limitation. The once praised benefit of being skill point positive is now biting back for people that is looking to play Sparkle. Oh, and this also means future skill point positive units will also hate Sparkle, so that's great. Well, at the end of the day, pull for your waifus and husbandos over meta no matter what. To be a good design character, she had to have her ups and downs. Otherwise, it would just be stupid like Ranmei, whose downs were nowhere near as impactful as her ups. Unfortunately, generally speaking, Sparkle is still no Ranmei, but in teams that need skill points, she'll definitely feel like you got a second Ranmei. Wait, I honestly think I said Ranmei more often than Sparkle in this video about Sparkle. Before I end, I want to apologize for a bit of a mistake on my Sparkle speed tuning video. In the end of the video where I show off some sample speed tune teams, I really overestimated Sparkle's action events. Running attack boots in most cases is gonna be straight up better than speed boots, as her action events is not quite strong enough for a DPS to sneak in a turn with high enough speed, unlike fast Bronya. So generally speaking, attack boots plus some speed substats is okay, but I will still personally run speed boots for A so they can be used elsewhere without changing builds, and B in case the enemy CC my DPS and or Sparkle.